Hello everyone, I'm Rebecca with Eclipse Stitchery. I'm here today with another Sips and Stitches. So we're going to get this opened up, try a few different teas, and then we're going to work on a crochet project. So, not too long ago, my grandmother picked this up for me to try. She wanted me to try out this brand of tea. I've never had them before. So this is Taylor's of, I think this is Harrogate, since 1886. Assorted specialty teas, individually wrapped and tagged tea bags, 48 tea bags. And if I flip it over, there are 8 flavors, right? Yeah, 8 flavors. So we're not going to try all of them at once. We're going to try 4 of them. But for now, let's switch to time lapse and get this open. Alright, so the tea's all ready. I have the box here so we can look at it. My one issue with this box is that even though they're all nicely organized like that, they're constantly sliding out of their compartments. So they don't actually stay where I want them to. That's okay though. So I'm going to read the 4 flavors we didn't try first, just to put that out there. We did not try the decaf breakfast tea, the lemon orange tea, the green tea with jasmine, or the organic chamomile. Now we might try them in the future, we might not. Those are not necessarily flavors I personally care about. But we do have these 4 ready to try. So from this side across we have English breakfast, Assam tea, Earl Grey tea, and organic peppermint. All right, where do you want to start? And as always, I put a teaspoon of sugar in each, and then these 3 have some milk in them. Starting with the English breakfast. We do drink a lot of English breakfast tea and Irish breakfast tea. We don't really different. I mean, they are different. They definitely taste different, but we have both. The one I normally give you is stash tea. So let me know if you think it's better or worse than the one you normally drink.
It is more sugar, but other than that, it's good. It's not disgusting.
No, it's not bad. It's not that different than the stash one. I think the stash one might be stronger, but just like a touch. It's solid, not bad. All right. Now I think that the Mandalorian black tea I drink is an Assam tea, but I'm not certain on that.
Don't taste much different than that one.
I mean, they're both black teas. They would be similar. They're very close. I like this one a little bit more. It has, how do you explain it? This one has more of like a robust flavor to it. Maybe almost a woodiness. I like it. Alright, let's see next. The Earl Grey tea. I normally like Earl Greys, but I don't know, it's complicated. I do like that this is Rainforest Alliance certified or whatever. Ethical tea partnership.
Just like the other one I used.
Certified carbon
Can't think
neutral.
of the
That's
name
all
of the
pretty
company.
cool.
I think of the name of the company, but it tastes like the other one I used.
The other Earl Grey. We definitely have Stash Earl Grey, and then we also have Bigelow.
Probably Bigelow.
And
I'm probably thinking Bigelow.
Bigelow's the black and gray.
Yep.
Yeah. black, gray, and blue, I think. I like this one. It's not as like super
Tasty.
Earl Grey-ish. It's a more mild Earl Grey. I like it though. It's really good. I might have to get more of that one. That's one of, I like that. Finally, we have organic peppermint. We go through a lot of peppermint tea because you drink it, Donovan loves it, and Lily drinks a ton of it. And then in the summer, I end up making pictures of it as iced tea. But this one's hot. Can't reach.
No,
I will say none of these have been like overly bitter or anything, which is what I was worried about. So I think these are all drinkable. Yeah, I could. When you open the box, all you can smell is peppermint. It overwhelms all the other smells.
It's on my low grade as far as all of the other three.
When you compare it to other peppermint teas.
Yeah. I don't know. It's not awful.
Yeah, it's only an okay peppermint tea. Maybe I didn't steep it long enough. No, it's correct according to this. That is not my favorite peppermint tea. I think my favorite peppermint tea is the one we got from Billings Farm, the one that was the mid black.
Yeah.
So if I can, I'll have to find that one. There's also a stash mint tea that's really good called Super Mint, but that one's not a peppermint. That one's a wild mint, if I understand correctly. We buy that one in bulk. We have a lot of it. It's really good. All right. So yeah, if you wanted to buy just a variety box and try a bunch of different teas, those were pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with these. Good job, Grandma. All right, so for the rest of the video, obviously I need to do some crochet work. So I'm gonna go get us set up in the studio and we'll get started on that. All right, so while trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with this video, I remembered this project that I've had going for a while in various configurations. But basically, while thinking about sampling all the different teas, I also remembered my project is sampling all these different crochet stitches and that I am slowly attaching all of my little swatches and samples into a blanket. And I mean, I am making some progress. So last night I took some of them and I made some squares. So these are like 8.5-ish inches across for each square. I'm not 100% certain how many of these I'm going to do, but obviously I'm going to need some more. So I thought what I would work on today is picking out some stitches for some more squares and maybe working through a few stitches with you. This one I started last night. Didn't get very far, or actually I started this morning before work. That's what it was. And these two need more added to them as well. I can do that. So yeah, I'm just going to grab a stitch dictionary and let's pick out a few stitches. All right, so this is the first stitch dictionary I ever bought. This is Crochet, the Complete Guide by Jane Davis. And I'm not gonna go too far into this book, but it does have a decent number of stitches in it. So I'm just gonna go through and pick a few interesting textured ones, and then also write down what page they're on if it's one that I don't know how to do without instructions. So as I go through, most of these are relatively normal stuff that I've done a million times before. And then every now and then I'll see one where I'm like, oh, that would be kind of cool for a square. So you go through it. I don't think I've done a shell stitch square yet, so I'm gonna write down shell stitch. But I'm gonna do my own shell stitch rather than one of those. These ones are kind of interesting. I like this one, so slant. So that's on page 95. I'm gonna come back and do a square in that. That one could be fun. So double crochet checkerboard. That's page 140. Oh, I am going to do those 3, but I'm also going to finish this granny square, and I think I'm also going to just show you from the beginning how I do granny squares, because I can do that. And it won't take me very long to show you how to get set up with those. I'm going to set this aside for a minute, and let's pull this out, pretend I'm not already working on one. Because this is the absolute easiest thing you can do if you have a bunch of scraps that you need to use up. So I've been wanting to use this for the center of one because it's nice and bright. Let's make sure I'm in frame. Yep. All right. Obviously, if you do a slip knot, that's better. I just am lazy and don't like doing them. So chain, I think I chained 5 for the last one, so I'll chain 5 for this one. Slip it into a loop. And then I make a single crochet into the loop part, not into a stitch, just to start, and then I chain 2. All right, double crochet. Do I normally do 2 or 3? Looks like 3, okay. And then another double crochet. It's funny how you can do something like your entire life and then forget how to do it. All right, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and we're just working into that loop in the center. We're not working into stitches, we're just working around the loop. Chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, chain 2. So now we have a very small square with corners, and we're going to be working in those corners. So we're going to flip this around, and we're going to slip into a corner, the nearest corner. All right, chain 2, 1 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, and then in the next corner you're going to do 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. This is just one of those really meditative things that you can do while you sit there watching TV or just sitting outside or something. All right, every corner, so there's 2 more corners, 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet. And that's gonna be every corner. That's what they're gonna look like. That's how you keep your corners nice and even. This is a really nice way to use up your little bits and scraps. So I have all sorts of little bits left over from one of my color work shawl pieces. I'm trying to use those up into squares for this blanket because it's just a good way to use them up. Weaving is good for them too, of course. All right, so that is our second row. And then we're just gonna slip over to a corner. In the third row works basically the same way. So you have a corner here, and then we're also gonna be working into this space between the corners. So first corner is chain 2, double crochet, chain 2, yarn's getting caught up, double crochet, Now in the previous row you had the two corners, and then there's this place in between the two corners that is the center. So see how, since there's no stitches there, it creates a hole? We're going to work into that hole and double crochet 3 times. And then the next one's a corner, so double crochet 2. Chain 2, double crochet 2, and then you find your next center part again, and again double crochet 3 times, and then you have another corner. You just work like that around the whole thing. Now you can change color as often or as rarely as you like. You can do the square all in one color. You can change color every row. That's entirely up to you. It is easier to change at the beginning of a new row rather than in the middle of a row. But, I mean, your mileage may vary, of course. At the end of the row, just slip into the corner. So that finishes row 3. For row 4, it's basically going to be the same thing. So corner, and then in these in-between spaces, you're going to do 3 double crochet, corner, 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, corner, 3 double crochet, 3 double crochet, corner, the whole way around. And then each row, you'll end up with one more space, so it'll grow by one more cluster each row on each side. And that's just how it keeps being a square and keeps working up. And there are ways to change the center portion so that you start out with a rectangle and then you're working right from a rectangle, and that's good for if you're making a blanket. There's a whole bunch of different things you can do with it. If you want me to do a video just on working with this granny square type stitch and showing how to make different shapes with that, I can totally do that. Just leave a comment and I can do that video in the future. But this is basically how I make my granny squares. And then at the very end, once it's the size I want, I just do just single crochet on the outside row just to square it off. So I'm going to go into time lapse and finish up these 2 squares, and then we're going to do some patterned squares. Alright, so I'm back. I didn't get to finish this video yesterday because I finished up making my square, and then the neighbors upstairs started blasting music super loud, and I didn't want to get copyright struck, so had to stop filming for a bit. Anyway, got 2 of these done, and then I also started working on adding borders to my other smaller squares so that we can start getting those to the correct 8-inch across size and start making more of those. Now, while I was working on that, I came to 2 decisions. The first being that I am only going to do 1 more type of square for this video, and the second being that I'm going to start continuing this type of video in the future. So a few of my future sips and stitches will also be making blanket squares and working on the blanket, because it is going to take me a while to finish it. So we're going to do the shell stitch one for this video, and that will finish this video, and then the next video we'll do the slant one and the double crochet checkerboard one. Alright, so which yarn do I want to use for this? I think I was planning on using an orange color. So I'm going to want to have a ruler. My squares, I'm trying to make about 8 inches across, give or take a little bit. So since I am going to be putting a border around this, I'm going to try to aim for around 7.5 inches for the width of the actual crocheted portion. So I'm going to try to chain that length. Since it's a shell stitch and it's my type of shell stitch, which I showed in an earlier video, it has to be a multiple of 5. So let's see how many that takes. I'm going to go back to 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And once I actually start crocheting on it, it'll tighten up a little bit, but like I said, I am going to be adding a border to it. Alright, so that's better. And then we're going to add 2 more. So a multiple of 5 plus 2 to work this flat. Is that right? No. Multiple 5 plus 4. Yes? Yes. Alright. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, and the 5th chain from hook will make a shell, so that is double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet. And the first row is always the hardest. I very rarely do this particular stitch flat. I'm almost always working in the round. And then we're going to count over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that 5th stitch, we're going to do another shell stitch. So double crochet 2, chain 1, double crochet 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you know how when you look at the chain there's 3 strands? Try to go under 2 of them. It'll make it a little bit more stable. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then in the last stitch over here, we do a double crochet. Just 1. We're going to do that on each end so that we end up with relatively straight corners. So chain 2, and then in the shell space here where the chain 1 was, we're going to do another shell. So 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet. And I apologize for any noises you hear in the background. That's just my neighbors upstairs. That is the problem with living in an older apartment. There's not really any soundproofing. It happens. And then in that part at the end where it was some chains before starting the shells, we're just going to go into that chain space and do a double crochet, same as we did on the other row. All right, so that is 2 rows, and at this point I'm going to check how wide it is. So it is about 5 inches. Now we're going to want this to be 8 by 8 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crochet this until, excuse me, it is 5 by 5 in a nice square, and then when I do the border around it, it'll increase evenly as a square from the border. So So I'm going to go into time lapse and we are just going to work on getting this square done. So now that I have my 5x5 square for the shell stitch, I'm going to be going around in a granny square type pattern to create the border. Now generally, for me personally, with a 6.5mm hook and this type of yarn, so I'm using DK weight, worsted weight, somewhere in that realm for all of these. Each of my double crochet stitches ends up being roughly 1/2 inch. So if I'm adding the border, then I end up adding 1/2 inch to each side. So in theory, since it's going to grow by 1 inch total across each row, in theory it'll only take me 3 rows to get to the correct size. It's not an exact science. Sometimes once you start adding the border, the center gets kind of weirdly squished and then you end up with it taking 4 rows. Sometimes they stretch and you end up only taking 2. It varies. So I've already made a corner, so 2 double crochet, chain 1, 2 double crochet. So we're going to go through and we're going to work this just like we would if we were working a granny square. So the 3 double crochet in each space is where it looks like they would belong. I can't guarantee that it'll work out straight. I haven't done it before like this. We're going to try it and see how it comes out. I think it'll work. So 3 double crochet in the chain space in each shell, and then also 3 double crochet in between the different shells. Let's see how that looks at the end. And another option, of course, would just be to do straight double crochet across. I will do that on a different square in one of my future videos. But for this one, I just wanted to see what it would look like as a granny square style border. All right, we're on another corner. Now looking at this side, this is the straight across side, and I am still just going to do it the same way. So we're going to put 3 here, 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 here. At all those spots where it looks like a hole, we're going to stick 3 double crochet in there. So on the bottom part, again, I'm just going to do it the same way I did on that side, and this side will be the same as well. We're going to put 3 double crochet in each hole. I'm trying to make it work that way. I think that'll end up being the right number to end up with relatively even sides. And also we have these extra strings, the ends from working on this. I tend to just crochet them in as I go. You could also leave them out and sew them in at the end. It's entirely up to you. For me, this blanket's just going to live on my couch. It's not a gift or anything, so I am fine with just lazily crocheting them in as I go. So it just locks them in place as I stitch. I am happy with mean, obviously, if you wanted to, you could work out mathematically how many you wanted to do on each side to make it even, and then like force it to be the same number on each side. I've done it that way. I've done it this way. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter for personal projects if it's not 100% perfectly straight. And also, it's really difficult to get the stitches to all work out mathematically like that. When you're going from all these different stitches you're trying out for different squares, and you're like, well, this square had this many stitches on it, this one needs to also have that many stitches. It's not going to happen. That's just adding another level of stress to a project that should be really relaxing, so I don't bother with it. And we have another corner. Alright, so for this side, we have the end string from up there. I'm just going to tuck it here to hold it in place, and then I'm going to still stitch over it. And that way it won't escape on me. Like that. So again, 3 double crochet in each of the spots where it looks like a hole. And this should be the end of this row, and then we'll see if it looks like a square. I think in general the reason I don't write more crochet patterns is because I'm just not really a by the books mathy person. I'm more of a figure it out as you go type of person, which works okay, I guess, for tutorial type videos, but not so great for writing patterns that need to actually fit people. That's all right. I might get better with that. I've been wanting to take some courses on designing patterns, and maybe that'll get some math in my brain for once. All right, that's the last of those little clusters. So we're gonna slip in here and slip stitch to the corner. All right, so that looks relatively even. We have our corners. So let's try measuring it. We've got just over 6 inches in this direction and just over 6 inches in that direction. It's not quite 6.5, it's just under 6.5. So that worked out. That is basically a square. So since it ended up being slightly more than an inch added in each for this row, I'm going to do one more row like this, and then I'm probably going to do single crochet for the last one to get it to the 8-inch mark, which is where I want it to be for this blanket. But that's about it. I mean, that is all it took to square this off and give us a square version of this stitch pattern for us to use for this blanket, and I really like how this came out. So yeah, that's about it for this particular video. It's already gotten really long, so I need to finish it now if I have any chance of ever getting it to render and allow me to upload it. So you can expect in my next blanket square video to see the slant stitch and the double crochet checkerboard. I will have in the title that it will be a Sips and Stitches blanket square video, and I'll have the names of the 2 squares for that. And then I'll also take some time to look through my other stitch dictionaries and pick out some stitches for some more blanket squares in the future, because this project is going to take a lot of squares. Now that I have some of them done and I've been kind of placing them down next to each other to try and figure out how many I'll need to finish the blanket, I'm like, oh crap, I have like, I don't know, 1/5 of them done. Am I 20% done? I don't know. It's gonna take a lot. So yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see y'all again soon.